On Wings of Music, Mutual presents the Air Force Hour. Climb aboard the Air Force Hour and prepare to take off in song.
Switch on! Switch on! Clear left! Clear left! Clear left! Clear right! Clear right! Clear right! Ready for tower instruction.
Announcing your crew for the Air Force Hour, the all-airman show of the Department of Defense, transcribed. Lieutenant Colonel George S. Howard conducting the Air Force Symphony Orchestra. Baritone soloist Sergeant Glenn Darwin. The singing sergeants under the direction of Warrant Officer Robert Landers. And your Air Force reporter. And I'm your navigator, Lieutenant Cass Bielski, advising you to fasten safety belts and prepare to take off.
So take off on your Air Force
And now here is the orchestra tonight under the direction of Warrant Officer John Yoselitis, supplying our takeoff power with June is Bustin' Out All Over. For now, the singing sergeants, Warrant Officer Robert Landers, directing, take over the controls to plot the first leg of tonight's musical mission. They sing Yonder, Yonder.
Yonder.
spotlight swings now from the singing sergeants to our crew chief, baritone soloist Sergeant Glenn Darwin. He steps front and center to our Air Force Hour microphone to sing the title song from Vincent Youmans' hit of 1929, Great Day.
Down and out, lift up your head and shout, there's gonna be a great day. Angels in the sky promise that by and by there's gonna be a great day. Gabriel will warn you, come early morn you, will hear his horn, a rootin' tootin', it's not far away. Hold up your heads and say, there's gonna be a great day. Down and out, lift up your head and shout, there's gonna be a great day. Angels in the sky promise that by and by there's gonna be a great day. Gabriel will warn you, some early morn you will hear his horn, a rootin' tootin', it's not far away. Hold up your hands and say, there's gonna be a great day. There's gonna be a great day. It's time on your Air Force hour. Time to call into the tower. Calling tower.
This is the tower. Corporal Jackson in the tower. Instructions for the Air Force Hour just received. Your destination, the boat dock at Bowling Air Force Base. Your mission, the story of the Bowling Crash Boat Squadron. Lying along the banks of the broad Potomac River here in Washington are 3 airfields: Anacostia Naval Air Station, National Airport, and Bowling Air Force Base. Water to an airplane in distress means added hazards. Even with a safe forced landing, you don't get out and walk away. Not when the landing is made on water. Thus, as a precautionary measure in the event of aircraft accidents, the Bowling Crash Boat Squadron came into being. It was a precautionary measure that's paid off in lives saved. But now, standing by at the boat dock to bring you that story is reporter Lieutenant John Hollowell.
This is Lieutenant John Hollowell reporting for the Air Force Hour from the boat docks of the 1100th Rescue Boat Squadron at Bowling Air Force Base. Here on the banks of the Potomac is the nerve center for all water rescue operations in the Washington area. This is the closely knit, efficient, well-disciplined unit that in its short history has performed many successful rescue missions. Standing beside me is First Lieutenant Walter G. Kelly, officer in charge of the rescue squadron. As commanding officer of this unit, he is responsible for the emergency readiness, operation, and training of the squadron at all times. Tell me, Walter, how does it feel to be a seagoing pilot? Or should we say a river-going pilot?
Better say river pilot, John. Actually, we operate our boats in the best seagoing tradition without losing sight of the fact that we're still Air Force.
I can see that really is an unusual assignment for Air Force personnel. How about telling us something about the squadron's job here at Bowling?
Our mission here at Bowling is actually a twofold one. First of which is rescue coverage for the Washington area, which includes 3 major airfields, Bowling, Anacostia, and National. This rescue coverage includes any and all types of water emergencies. Further, we operate a marine boat service between Bowling Air Force Base and the Pentagon. This actually serves as a medium of crew training in a quick, economical means of transportation.
I see. That's really quite an assignment. 24 hours a day, every day in the year. For your rescue operations, what type of rescue equipment do you use? And then in case of an emergency, about how long does it take to get underway?
As to the equipment, we operate 42 and 22-foot rescue boats. As soon as we are notified that an emergency exists, we can be underway within 1 minute. In any rescue operation of ours, speed and efficiency are both prime factors.
Yes, speed and efficiency are necessary in any emergency operation. While visiting the 1100th Rescue Boat Squadron, an emergency alert was received from Bowling Tower. The alarm was sounded at once.
Okay, Frankie, get this thing rolling. Check. Break out the crash gear. Check.
The standby skipper immediately reported to his rescue boat. In a matter of seconds, they were on their way, ready to render whatever assistance might become necessary. Each airman crew member ready to save a drowning man, to face the hazards of fire or explosion, to administer first aid, to right a capsized craft, to perform any emergency rescue operation that might face them. This is the mission of all rescue boat squadrons of the United States Air Force.
Roger 261, boat 2 here, go ahead.
Fortunately, the aircraft whose temporary distress condition necessitated this alert landed safely and the mission came to a happy ending. Returning to the boat docks, I talked to Tech Sergeant Morris Red Floundlacker of New York City, our skipper on the rescue boat. Red, tell me, do you always get underway that fast?
Sure do, Lieutenant. As a matter of fact, I thought it was kind of slow today.
Well, how did you happen to get into this boat squadron here at Bowling Field?
Well, sir, I was in the Navy 7 years before I came here. I acted as a quartermaster in the Navy.
Well, that's quite a change, though, isn't it?
Yes, but I like boats in the water, and so I thought it was a natural choice for me. With this new airman career field and all, I think it's even better.
Well, I think you've really hit the nail on the head. Thank you, Tech Sergeant Morris Red Floundlacker, for being with us today, and also for that fast ride. And now this is your Air Force reporter, Lieutenant John Hollowell, returning you to the Air Force Hour.
We continue the Air Force Hour from Washington, D.C. Breathes there a man with soul so dead who never to himself has said, "This is my own, my native land." Take that thought, set it to music, and you'll find it beautifully expressed in The Last Mile Home.
Away.
you've traveled that last mile home. The war, at least the shooting, is over. You can sit back now and relax and think. The memories you have of the last 9 years aren't all bitter. For instance, there was that leave you had, the weekend you spent on the Riviera. It was just about the time a Frenchman wrote a tune that was soon to sweep America. You heard it then. Remember Symphony? A notation by the next entry in tonight's Air Force Hour log, A Trip Inside USA. And from the musical bearing the same title, Sergeant Glenn Darwin sings Haunted Heart.
In the night, though we're apart, there's a ghost of you within my haunted heart. Ghost of you, my last romance. Lips that laugh, eyes that dance. Haunted heart, won't let me be. Dreams repeat a sweet but lonely song to me. Dreams are dust, it's you must belong to me. And thrill my haunted heart. Be still, my heart.
Air Force Hour. We circle the home field now, and preparations are made to land. As the tower clears its number 1 to land and we begin our letdown into traffic, Warrant Officer Yesulitis and the orchestra climax tonight's Air Force Hour with the Galloping Comedians. From Bowling Air Force Base in Washington, the Department of Defense has presented the Air Force Hour, transcribed, featuring the Air Force Symphony Orchestra, Lieutenant Colonel George S. Howard, conductor, and the singing sergeants under the direction of Warrant Officer Robert Lander. Music tonight was under the direction of Warrant Officer John Yesulitis, with arrangements by Sergeant Fred Kepner. The Air Force Hour is produced, written, and directed by Captain Mark D. Miranda and is heard overseas through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. This is your Air Force navigator, Lieutenant Cass Bielski, speaking.
This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
From St. Joseph, Missouri, Mutual presents the Air Force Hour. Climb aboard the Air Force Hour and prepare to take off in song. Switch on. Switch on. Clear left. Clear left. Clear left. Clear right. Clear right. Clear right. All ready for tower instruction. Announcing your crew for the Air Force Hour, the all-airman show of the Department of Defense. Lieutenant Colonel George S. Howard conducting the United States Air Force Band. Baritone soloist Sergeant Glenn Darwin. The singing sergeants under the direction of Warrant Officer Robert Landers, and your reporter, Major Wes McFarren. And I'm your navigator, Lieutenant Cass Bielski, advising you to fasten safety belts and prepare to take off.
So take off on your air.
And now here is the band supplying tonight's takeoff power with the spirited march, Triumph of Old Glory. There's a notation by the next entry in tonight's Air Force Hour log that reads, an original composition by our conductor, Lieutenant Colonel George S. Howard. In tribute to the people of the state of Missouri, our crew chief, Sergeant Glenn Darwin, sings, My Missouri.
From coast to coast, from north to south, the Midwest is the heart. In peace or war, the great Midwest has always done its part. Of all the states of our vast land, Missouri is the core. My heart is in Missouri to remain forevermore. My Missouri, my Missouri, from her heart flows friendship to all. In her deep, rich soil and her people is the strength that has answered each call. From the sturdy bone of hardship comes the warmth of the friend always true. My Missouri, my Missouri, she's the soul of the red, white, and blue. The bold and brave who pioneered were hardy folks indeed. From those who blaze a trail we spring, they humbly laid the seed that flourished into our great state that we all love today. Missouri means so much to me, there's more I'd like to say. My Missouri, my Missouri, from her heart flows friendship to all. In her deep, rich soil and her our people is the strength that has answered its call. From the sturdy born of hardship comes the warmth of a friend always true. My Missouri, she's a song of the red, white, and the blue.
Music now from the pen of one of America's greatest composers, Stephen Foster. The singing sergeants, Warrant Officer Robert Landers directing, step front and center to sing what was probably the last of the great Foster songs, Old Black Joe.
Gone are the days when my heart was young and gay. Gone are my friends from the cotton fields away. Gone from the earth to a better land I know. I hear the gentle voices calling. Old Black Joe, I'm coming. I'm coming, for my head is bending low. I hear the gentle voices calling. Old Black Time on your Air Force hour. Time to call into the tower. Calling tower.
This is Major Wes McFerrin. If you were in Texas, as I was recently, and tuned in your shortwave radio on the right frequency, you might hear some very, very strange melodies coming from the skies of that Lone Star State near San Antonio, home of the historic Alamo. No, you wouldn't be picking up Paris. Your transmitting station would be much closer than that. As a matter of fact, probably in one of those big Texas clouds directly overhead, where some lusty young French air cadet from Randolph Air Force Base, with his radio switch inadvertently turned on, is happily greeting the morning sun. What are French cadets doing at Randolph? They're the first contingent of the some 1,300 foreign military personnel who will be training in this country by the end of June under the Mutual Defense Assistance Program. That program designed to bolster the defenses of the North Atlantic Treaty Nations. There are 75 of these cadets, bright-eyed, eager, and fresh from their beloved France for the first time. Almost none of them speaking any but their own tongue. Now, this posed quite a problem for our instructors at Randolph, almost none of whom spoke any but English, all of which led to some very fast French classes for the majors, captains, and lieutenants of the faculty staff. To their own surprise, by the time their young French charges arrived a month ago, the instructors were ready. Now, Americans, being nomads at heart, are pretty much at home after a while almost anywhere they go. But a Frenchman out of France, and especially a young Frenchman, in our country, he finds many things strange to him. Some not so easy to become accustomed to. For example, their first meal at Randolph was quite a shock to the ruddy-cheeked young Gaelics. No wine. The equivalent to an American would be no coffee at his table. However, they eventually became used to and finally very fond of an excellent substitute, milk. The GI haircut, to which all cadets must submit, also caused considerable concern among these guests from France, where the closer the hair is cropped, well, where they just don't like short haircuts. But crew cuts, like all other dissimilarities, were well on the way toward being resolved by the time the young cadets began their pre-flight training in the classrooms at Randolph. And by this past midweek, Colonel John G. Fowler, commanding officer of the base, was able to report.
In spite of language difficulties, the integration of the French students into the basic pilot training program here at Randolph Air Force Base is progressing rapidly and smoothly. Their willingness to learn from their American instructors is proving greatly instrumental in accelerating the French training project.
Integration of operational and training methods is one of the aims of the French cadet program at Randolph Air Force Base, a goal toward which ever more progress is made with each passing day. Another less formal, though no less important, amalgamation is the growing oneness between the American and French cadets as they work, play, and eat together.
I just can't make it go. Potatoes, please. Yes. Potatoes in French are called pommes de terre.
Pomme de terre?
No, pommes de terre.
Pomme de terre. I see.
Bill, what do they call gravy in French? Oh, I think that's called sauce. Well, in English, such as tomato sauce is called tomato ketchup.
The French air cadets at Randolph Air Force Base are taking things well in stride, assimilating not only our theories on training, but also a certain amount of local ideology, as I discovered in a hallway discussion among a group of them.
In America. Oh, no, there are 48 states. Yes, of course, 48. No, what do you think about you? Oh, no, my American friend, Cadet Houseman, who is from Dallas in Texas, has said me that America is composed mainly of one state, Texas, and maybe one or two other states, so it cannot be 48.
And today in Texas, should you tune in your shortwave radio on an Air Force frequency, this in a sort of Texanized French accent is what you might well hear.
The eyes of Texas are upon you all the livelong day. The eyes of Texas are upon you. You cannot get away.
And that's how it is with the French Air Cadet Training Program at Randolph Air Force Base in Texas. This is Major Wes McFerrin returning you to the Air Force Hour in St. Joseph, Missouri.
We continue the Air Force Hour from St. Joseph, Missouri. St. Joseph can boast, among other things, the birthplace of one of America's great band leaders and composers, Arthur Pryor. Now, here is the Air Force Band in one of Pryor's better-known tunes, the novelty, Whistler and His Dog. Every nation has a page of history it can call its own, a bit of color from the past that becomes a part of the national idiom. Here in America, we are justly proud of our heritage of pioneering, the great westward movement that has become a favorite theme of America's composers. Listen now as the Air Force Band takes us on a musical tour of the wide open spaces. From out of the prairies and the grasslands has come a figure that is a legend in America, the cowboy. His life in the limitless outdoors has inspired many a song of solitude, such as the tranquil Cowboy Serenade.
While I'm smoking my last cigarette, sing that cowboy song I never will forget. Yippee-ki-yay, the sun's almost set, and I'm smoking my last cigarette. Through the sagebrush when evening is near comes that melody, a cowboy oh so dear. Yippee-ki-yay, the sun's almost set, and I'm smoking my last cigarette. Come on, old page, this time we're traveling alone. Gonna meet her where the good green pastures are grown. So while twilight and purple hills fade, from a campfire comes that cowboy serenade. Yippee-ki-yay, the sun's almost set, and I'm smoking my last cigarette. While I'm smoking my last cigarette.
After the trails were blazed across America, great numbers of homesteaders rushed westward to find new homes in the rich land that was theirs for the claiming. The Indian Trail soon became roads under the weight of thousands of wagon wheels. This is the Air Force Hour. Our course is a northeasterly one now as we take up a heading for the home field in the completion of another mission. As our crewmen return to their stations and preparations are made to land, Colonel Howard and the band climax tonight's Air Force Hour with the fire dance. From St. Joseph, Missouri, the Department of Defense has presented the Air Force Hour, featuring the United States Air Force Band, Lieutenant Colonel George S. Howard, conductor, and the Singing Sergeants under the direction of Warrant Officer Robert Landers. Musical arrangements by Sergeant Fred Kepner. The Air Force Hour is produced, written, and directed by Captain Mark D. Miranda, assisted by Warrant Officer John Yoselitis, and is heard overseas through the Armed Forces Radio Service. This is your Air Force navigator, Lieutenant Cass Bielski, speaking. The Air Force Hour. Climb aboard the Air Force Hour and prepare to take off in song.
Switch on! Switch on! Switch on! Switch on! Clear left! Clear left! Clear left! Clear right! Clear right! Clear right! All ready for tower instruction.
Announcing your crew for the Air Force Hour, the all-airman show of the Department of Defense, transcribed. The Air Force Symphony Orchestra, Lieutenant Colonel George S. Howard, conductor. Baritone soloist Sergeant Glenn Darwin. The Singing Sergeants under the direction of Warrant Officer Robert Landers, and your Air Force reporter. And I'm your navigator, Captain Cass Bielski, advising you to fasten safety belts and prepare to take off.
So take off on your Air Force
And now here are the Singing Sergeants, supplying tonight's takeoff power with Everywhere You Go.
Everywhere you go, sunshine follows you. Everywhere you go, skies are always blue. Children love you, they seem to know. You bring roses out of the snow. The whole world says hello. Everywhere you go. Children love you, they seem to know. You bring roses out of the snow. The whole world says hello. Everywhere you go.
Airborne now, the orchestra. Tonight, under the direction of Warrant Officer John Yoselitis, takes over the flight deck to plot our course for the first leg of tonight's musical mission. In the bright tempo of the beguine, here's I Am Love. Our crew chief, Sergeant Glenn Darwin, leaves the station now to take over the Air Force Hour controls for some solo work. In an uncompromising mood, he sings All or Nothing at All.
Of your hand makes me weak, and my heart may grow dizzy and fall. And if I fell under the spell of your call, I would be caught in the undertow. So you see, I've got to say no, no, or nothing at all.
Time on your Air Force Hour. Time to call into the tower. Calling tower, calling tower, calling tower.
This is your Air Force reporter, Lieutenant John Hartig, speaking to you from the tower. Our destination now, the Far East. Our mission, the story of the champion tank buster of the Korean campaign. This is the story of one man, one airplane, and 45 Russian-built tanks. Or should I say, 45 masses of twisted, burned-out steel that once resembled tanks. This is the story of Captain Mario Di Silvestro of the 18th Fighter Bomber Wing, recorded at an Air Force base in Japan.
We're going to tell you how to kill an enemy tank. Your reporter, Captain Bill Bender of the Far East Air Forces. To get this story, we've brought you to the flight line of an air base in Japan. And here to tell you how to kill an enemy tank is the Korean War's leading tank buster. He's Captain Mario Di Silvestro of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, until recently an F-51 pilot with the 18th Fighter Bomber Wing. After 102 combat missions over Korea, Captain Di Silvestro is credited with 26 confirmed kills of Russian-built T-34 Tigers, plus another 19 claimed as possible kills or damages. In all, a total of 45, which makes him the #1 tank destroyer in the war. First off, Dee, what's your preference as to weapons when you're out tank busting?
Well, Bill, napalm is about the most effective, but the others are good, especially the rockets. And if we can consider having good weather, a nice flat terrain where we can make steep passes on tanks, we've really got it hacked.
You mean your weapon varies with your tactic?
That's right. The most important thing I guess, is weather. The next thing is the terrain. And a little aside every now and then is enemy ground fire.
Well, what about the guns in that F-51 Mustang? They certainly must pack a wallop, too.
If the weather is good and the ground is good and the target is clearly marked out, we can just blow it apart.
You can get a tank with your 650 calibers.
Oh, certainly, especially in the wintertime. If the tank is road-bound, you can bounce them off the ground, make them ricochet up into the soft underbelly of almost any tank. And if the ceiling is high enough, you can make an almost vertical pass on them and get them into the louvers behind the turret.
Well, now we've been talking generalities. How about a specific case?
I can remember of one during the wintertime up in North Korea. It was on an armed reconnaissance flight, and that day my crew chief had just bore-sighted my guns. We spotted a tank, and I didn't have any napalm, but I went down and gave him a full squirt right in the tread, which promptly blew right off. My wingman, Lieutenant Clyde Long, came in and laid one napalm tank right down the hatch. That is about the most interesting thing that I'd ever seen over there.
Is that right? He put it right down the gunner's hatch in that tank?
Right in the hatch.
All right, now, Dee, let's assume that you spotted a communist tank. It's crawling across a fairly level patch of ground. You're fully armed with rockets, guns, and napalm. Now what?
Well, about the first thing to check is see how that gun is pointing. They're pretty heavy and pretty dangerous. And the next thing, if he's going over dry ground, there's any dust or smoke coming up, is to check the wind. And with this napalm, we'll get a lot of airspeed and get right down on the deck, anywhere between 100 feet down as low as 40, provided the terrain features will permit it. And just bore right in on him and scrape that napalm off.
Well, how do you know when to release your napalm?
Well, we have a very accurate gun sight, and as soon as that gun sight flashes over the target, then we squeeze off our napalm. And at that time, why, it's best to get out of there.
Then how do you decide whether it's a definite kill or whether it's a damage?
Well, there's no mistaking a definite kill. Napalm burns fiercely and of relatively short duration. However, once a tank is afire, it puts out tremendous globs and blobs of black, oily smoke. That's the fuel is going up, and sometimes you'll get a white smoke when the electrical connections and wiring in the tank starts to go. However, the most definite thing is that very heavy black smoke.
Well, Dee, now that you've explained many of the details, tell us this one. What was your toughest fight against a tank?
Well, oddly enough, about the toughest thing we've ever done was to beat out a train load full of tanks. And this guy was making for a tunnel. He was finding his sanctuary there. So we had to knock off the locomotive first, and after we had done that, why, we went to work on a trainload of tanks.
All on flat cars, I suppose?
On flat cars, that's right.
How many did you get that day?
Well, I think there was a confirmed total of 12 and 4 damaged.
12 all at one crack. Well, now it's obvious that your tank-busting work can't be laid to coincidence alone. Just what got you started on tanks, Dee?
Well, Bill, the 18th Wing has an aversion for tanks. Since our mission is close support of our boys on the ground, those tanks can cause them an awful lot of trouble. Plus the fact that my first squadron commander flew his own airplane right into one to stop one.
Who was that?
My first squadron commander, that was Major Dick Sabille.
Well, he was just recommended for the Congressional Medal of Honor, I believe.
Well, if anyone deserves it, he does. And besides, when you get a tank, you've really got something.
Well, you certainly have. Thanks a lot, Dee. Well, there it is, the story on how to kill a tank. You've been listening to Captain Mario Di Silvestro of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the leading tank buster of the Korean War. And this is your Far East Air Force's combat reporter, Captain Bill Bender, coming to you from an air base in Japan.
We continue the Air Force Hour from Washington, D.C. musical question now that may well be answered in this era of supersonic planes, rockets, and guided missiles. Here are the singing sergeants and the orchestra asking, how high the moon? Webster defines serenade as a short, melodious, dreamy night song. Music that is played or sung by a lover under the window of a lady. Since all of us are lovers at heart, and there is an air of romance surrounding a night flight, the stage is set for Toselli's Serenade. Music by Vincent Youmans, arranged for the baritone voice of our crew chief by Sergeant Henry Goss. The Air Force Hour spotlight centers on Sergeant Glenn Darwin as he sings the title song from the show, Great Day.
When you're down and out, lift up your head and shout, there's gonna be a great day. Angels in the sky promise that by and by there's gonna be a great day. Gabriel will warn you, somebody more you will hear his horn. A rootin' is not far away. Hold up your hands and say there's gonna be a great day. Lift up your head and shout, there's gonna be a great day. Angels in the sky promise that by and by there's gonna be a great day. Gabriel will warn you, somebody more you will hear his horn. It's not far away. Hold up your hands and say, there's gonna be a great day.
Is the Air Force Hour. Our course is a homeward one now, another mission near completion. As our crewmen return to their stations and preparations are made to land, Warrant Officer John Yoselitis and the orchestra climax tonight's Air Force Hour with the Saber Dance. From Bowling Air Force Base in Washington, the Department of Defense has presented the Air Force Hour, featuring the Air Force Symphony Orchestra, Lieutenant Colonel George S. Howard, conductor, Sergeant Glenn Darwin, and the singing sergeants under the direction of Warrant Officer Robert Landers. Arrangements by Sergeant Henry Goss, with music tonight under the direction of Warrant Officer John Yesolaitis. The Air Force Hour is produced, written, and directed by Major Mark D. Miranda and is heard overseas through the Armed Forces Radio Service. This is your Air Force navigator, Captain Cass Bielski, speaking.
Nothing can stop the USA.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.